that it's not going to be very easy. It has a lot of struggles choosing an unconventional career path. You might even not like what you take. I thought about switching again when I first started my media.
Was there any pushback from your parents?
Yes, for me, it was like, this is my time. I have one life. This is what I want to do. I'm not cut out for this, so this is not going to work out for me. Obviously, I would have regretted, like wasting my parents' money for 2 years. I think what my life would have been, and obviously, I would probably have more money than I have now.
Namaste and welcome to my podcast called The Katta Gang. I'm your host, Priyam Patki, and today we are going to be talking about choosing unconventional career paths and moving to the US. Today we have Chaitra Kulkarni, who is my wife, and um, I call her career as an unconventional career because um, she has chosen to do technical writing, and she also has a PhD in media and communications, which frankly for me is a first. So, hi Chaitra, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Priyam. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, how are you doing today?
Great. Yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, nice, nice. So, Chaitra, like media and communication, and that to a PhD in it. So, that's, as per me, that's like the first person I've met with such a background. But how did you get here? Like, what was your education in India, and why did you, like, yeah?
Okay, so I started with a very conventional career per se, according to at least like Indians or Desi people. So I do have my bachelor's in computer science because I got the grades and then got the good college. So that's how I started. And then my parents were like, "Why don't you like just finish a degree in this?" Because right from the start, I knew I didn't like want to do engineering. My heart was not in coding, computer science. Like that was just, for me, it was always a backup plan. Like, getting that degree would always be like something I can fall back on. But it has created a good base for me. Like, right off the bat, I wanted to, after like my 11th, 12th, I wanted to get into literature and do, like English lit or something like that. But I obviously prepared for the CET as we have it in Maharashtra, and then like got a good college, finished my 4 years. But as I was in year two, I made a deal with my parents that after my fourth year, like if and when I graduate my bachelor's in comp sci, I would do what I want to do and study. I didn't know at that point that I wanted to come to the US. It was a plan somewhere in the back of my mind, but at that point I didn't know if that was possible. So I always thought about switching my careers someday, but I didn't know if it was going to be in the US or if I would like go to Europe or Australia. Like everything was open at that point. So once I was in my third year, that's when my sister and her husband really, encouraged me to start looking into these different career paths related to English lit, but also similar to kind of what I was getting my education in. And that's where I came across like, media and communication and technical writing as a career. So I did come here to the US in 2017 to get a master's in comp sci because I just thought it would be easier to get the visa and everything. So that was kind of a workaround to getting here. But within the first 2 months, I was like, oh, this is even worse than what I did in my, bachelor's. Because here, like, it wasn't more theoretical. It was like you needed to like coding and understand the logic and all of those things, which I found like really heavy with all the other things that we go through as a new immigrant, right? Just adjusting to this new life. So within 2 months, I was like, this is not working out. So I went to the dean in the Mead and Com College and talked to them, and they were like, oh yeah, they were very welcoming. And then eventually, that's how I got into the Media and Communication College. So yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, like English lit, what was like what motivated you? Like, was there something which, like, for example, when it comes to me, like, I chose chemical engineering back for my bachelor's just because I wanted to know how things work and how those things are like made in high volume
Mhm.
typically. So it was right on that process engineering path. So was there something that motivated you back then that made you like, oh, literature is the way to go about it?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, as a kid, I was always interested. Like, my favorite subject in school was English. I literally did not like math. And sorry to my mom, who's like a math teacher and a beloved math teacher at that. But I used to really dislike, math or anything that had to do with like, the engineering or bio or all
Mhm.
the conventional fields that us as Desi people go towards. So I always liked that. And then I was very fond of reading growing up, and especially in 11th, 12th, where you're supposed to, really focus on your studies and that will define your career path, as they say. That's when I used to like chupke read all the books and, pretend like I was studying, but
Yeah.
actually used to, read books. And that really got me into, you know, I thought that was the path that I was supposed to take. So that's how I think I thought that was what I wanted to study, and maybe it was, but eventually I got here.
Oh, what kind of books were they?
They were
Fictional,
just,
non-fictional?
yeah, mostly fictional. I'm not like a
Mhm.
big non-fictional person. I do write or read, not write, read a biography here and there. But I really like, as a kid, I was immersed in all those teen fictions and everything, and then Dan Brown, and then eventually like just books from there. I also liked Vampire Diaries and all the vampire stuff. I was big into that. So I read all the books like regarding those teen fictions and things. And I at that point I didn't realize like English lit is not going to be just reading books and everything. But I guess that like it was just like for me it just felt like that's what where my heart was. So yeah.
So, when you came to the US, right? Like you were still enrolled in a com science school. Um, what was there like a test or something which made you think, oh, com science is not my thing. I am done with com science.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a number of things. So you have to take 3 credits, as you know, the first, or sorry, 3 courses for 9 credits in your like every semester. So I don't remember the exact subjects, but they were like related to algorithms and stuff.
Okay.
And I used to like every time I got an assignment, I used to get goosebumps like, oh, I have to, do this. And I can't like cheat my way through it anymore because this was very individualized. In India, the way our education works is every person is given like a same problem to solve, and then you can copy, get logic off of different
Yeah.
person and
Yeah.
figure your way out to the solution. But here it was like you create your own problem, you try and find your solution. And that really gave me, like I felt like that was horrible. It gave me nightmares. I could not sleep. I could not, like it was just the worst time in my life. So it was all the courses and eventually with the assignments and then midterms, and I did so bad in my midterms that I was like, I'm not going to waste my parents money because they have sent me here in the hopes and dreams that our child is going to, get a degree and then
Mm.
make us proud one day. And I didn't want to, just finish it for the sake of it. I would have eventually, but then like in the next 40 years of my life, as they said in the Rancho movie, right? Like abhi tu copy
Uh,
करके pass हो जाएगा, but
uh-huh.
जिंदगी तेरी मारेगी life
Yeah.
में. So I literally resonated with that so much. I was like, this is my time to like just take a brave step, because at that point I didn't know anybody who changed careers, and going from a tech to a non-tech background, that was a big deal. Because after graduating you have 1 year of OPT if you find a job, and it's difficult as a non-tech person to find a job in the US. So it didn't make most sense to a person who was looking from outside. But for me, it was like, this is my time. I have one life. This is what I want to do. I eventually convinced my parents. I think they were half convinced. They were not.
But like let's step back a little.
Mhm.
But who like who were you having these conversations with at that point? Like, was there someone who was supporting you? Was there like you were using someone to as a soundboard to like just rebound your ideas about what you want to do next? What was it? Like, what? Who was there a person like that?
Actually, no. It was just all me. I've been very independent in my life with I don't know when that happened to me, but I was just like I have decided, I have made up my mind, and I promised my parents that I will figure out a way that will make me, get to where I wanted to. So I went to I don't know where I found the courage. One day I just went to the dean of the Media and Com College, and I told him that, I'm really interested in this, but I'm a master student in Com Sci, and I have literally no background in media and
Mm-hmm.
communication, but I feel like I really want to study this. Is there a way that I can get into it? Like, would I have to give, any exams or anything like that? So they literally, like, the head of the college told me that give us some writing samples so we can see where you're at in terms of, English and writing and everything. So I provided them with, like, I think two or three small short essays or samples of my writing, which I literally, like, created in one night, because I didn't have that. I never,
Mm-hmm.
like, I studied in an engineering college where there were only six very conventional, fields.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any exposure to that until I met with the dean. And after that, it was all me doing research, me finding stuff. So I was very independent in that process. And once I got the admission letter from the Media and Communication college's dean, I went to my parents and I'm like, I'm switching next semester and there's nothing you can do to stop me. So it was just wholly, like, based on my research. In retrospect, that was not the best idea. I should have talked to someone who would have known, but I was just scared, I think, at that point, that somebody is going to discourage me from going there, because that had been my experience. Everybody was like, oh no, you should, stay in computer science as a girl, as someone, an immigrant in the US. It's the best for you. um
Yeah, like if I was in your shoes, like I would have more of an internal struggle, like with respect to comps. I'm in comp sci. I'm going to like out of after my master's degree, I'm going to have like the best packages possible, right? And now I'm going to give up all of that just to pursue something which is on the opposite end of the best packages. Like you would be on like you would fall a little behind your friends in
yes,
terms of money.
for sure. No,
Yeah.
and I still feel that if you see conventionally, yes, I do get, like, paid differently in a different spectrum than what my computer science friends do. But for me, I think, imagine the misery I must be feeling at that point, just staying in
Hmm.
computer science, that made me take such a big step,
Yeah.
even after knowing everything, the struggles I might go through. But at that point, I was like, I have one life and I have to live it on my own terms. And I think that really, like, we may touch on this a little later, but that really transpired from, like, when I was 13, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And that was like a turning point in my life where I was like, life is very unpredictable. So might as well just do what I want to do for how much ever life I have on this earth. So I was kind of, I think that's where my bravery comes from in most of my decisions, because I always think of, like, life as a very limited time we have to do what we want to do. So, there's
Yeah.
no point in being, scared about things. What the worst that could have happened is I would have miserably failed and I would have wasted my parents' money, which is bad, but eventually I would have figured my way out, because I'm, like, scrappy that way. I want to prove myself. So I would have found a way, if not this path, then some other path. So
Gotcha. Was there any like when you decided like you want to do media and communication, you want to give up com science? Was there any pushback from your parents or anything?
yes, and that's why I came here to get a degree in computer science, right? So, My parents, obviously, they had my best interests in their mind, and they was like, we want to make sure that we set up our daughter in a way that she's successful later in life to, do whatever she wants to do, whatever her success looks like. But they thought the best way to set me up for success would be to give me an education in computer science. So that's why they were like, they also involved my uncle, my maternal
Mhm.
uncle, who was in the US, and he knew a lot more about everything than the rest of us, because I was looking at all of this from India and I was like, oh, it's easy. I'll just switch careers and it's fine. But I had tried that doing in a European university. Like I had called a
Mhm.
university in Europe and I was like, I need to like study media and com. What's the process? And they were like, if you don't have a degree in psychology or media and communication, and if you have a degree just in engineering, that's not going to work for us. You need to have some kind of base. So that really discouraged me. And that's how, like, after my uncle told me, like, hey, if you get your admission for comsci, I don't know how I got an admission in comsci. And my grades were really good in my bachelor's.
Yeah.
And we kind of all know that grades is not, just one way of defining how good you are at doing something, because there's multiple ways you can get good grades. But yeah, I had good grades. I had good score in IELTS and GRE and everything. So I got admission in comp sci, and like my parents and my uncle convinced me that that was getting a comp sci admission was the best way to get into the US, because why would they admit someone to the US if you know they don't think you are going to, I don't know, maybe
Succeed.
benefit, yeah, benefit their economy,
Oh.
succeed, something like that, those things. And that convinced me. And I think they were right in their thought process as well. But later I found out my mom told me that this was our attempt to, keep you in computer science. And we really thought like, at one point you'll be like, oh, this feels safe, comp sci, and getting a job and earning six figures right off the bat and something. They did not expect for me to switch careers within 6 months, so they did not see that coming. um, Eventually I convinced them at one point. Like I started doing really good grades wise as soon as I switched my degree.
Mhm.
So they saw that, oh, she's really trying and she's doing well with what she wanted to do. So they started supporting me. But I think until I got into a PhD, they weren't sure where this was going. So it
So
was a process.
yeah, so that's interesting. So, like media and communication, I've heard, okay, masters, that's fine. Why did you choose to go a step beyond that and get a PhD? Like that's
Yeah, that was honestly never the plan, getting a PhD. But in my master's, I liked doing research. My professors were really cool. I thought like that's where, my heart resided, doing research. And as we know now, I'm not doing that as well. But yeah, like that's how you grow, I guess. So anyway, so I thought that that's what I wanted to do. So during, like, as I was finishing my masters, um, I kept PhD as a backup plan. So applied to some schools and kept that as my backup plan. And then I was also going to go for jobs and see where the market is for a non STEM person, and especially for media and com. But then COVID hit. It was 2020 when I was supposed to graduate. And then I thought it was best for me to just stay put rather than going in a very bad job market and just, being rejected. I didn't even try. I didn't know if I was going to get rejected. I just made up these stories in my mind that I would get rejected and then I would like waste my parents' money and it would all be for nothing. So I went to graduate school. That's how I started my PhD, and it was horrible the first 6 months because it was COVID. All of our cohort was split up. The one best thing that happened during that time is that I went to my uncle and aunt's place in North Carolina. That's where I stayed for 6 months. I ate good food. I
Mhm.
had the mental support I needed. And honestly, them and my cousins, they got me through the first 6 months of PhD. Otherwise I would have I was ready to quit. Like within 6 months it was tough, like just having COVID. And then I had really bad professor that we all still hate
Yeah.
to this day. But yeah, that's how I started my
Your
PhD.
advisor or your?
No, it was just one of the course professors. She, I don't know what she had a
That's
problem with,
okay. Yeah.
but yeah. And then eventually it got better. Like we started going back to school. I found my friends, started teaching again, and it was good. And then my advisor, like I finally found my advisor and what I wanted to study. And my advisor was amazing, and it just worked out. So ended up finishing my PhD in 3 years because I had an offer by the time from Amazon by the time I graduated. And that was a really big relief for me for sure. So, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's quite a journey you've had so far, so as to say. But no. So when you were deciding between all of this, right? Uh, PhD, were there any resources available to you? Were there like anything you did on yours, like as a side thing, which helped you progress through this path you had chosen?
Yeah, I talked to some people who were getting their PhDs, especially the Desi people. There weren't many that were getting, like, I knew one person was getting his PhD in media and communication when I was a master's student. So I went, talked to him, asked him, like, like, what are you planning
Hmm.
to do next? Like, what will you do with this degree? Right.
Yeah.
And he was planning to go in academia. And so were all the other people that I had talked to. So I thought that was the only path I could take, and I was fine with it until I realized I talked to my other friends who had nothing to do with academia. They were like completely in corporate world, and they were like, at least try to kar, like at least give it
Yeah.
an attempt, see if you have those options. And that's how I ended up applying for internships in my second year of PhD. Some of my friends really pushed me to do that. Eventually I ended up getting an internship at Amazon, and that transpired into like a full-time job which I had by the time I graduated. So it was just talking to people, researching a little bit. I had also considered doing a PhD in technical communication at one point, when I was in my master's, because I don't know what made me think that. I thought that was like a good mix between media and com and technical stuff, which I had done in my bachelor's. But I looked at that and I was like, this is too difficult. Like I know what I'm gonna do in media and communication. I knew what kind of research I wanted to do. I knew the professors. It just felt like a safe thing. But I was completely unaware that eventually I would get into technical communication, just in a different way. So I guess everything's written in some ways, and you just, get there
Yeah.
somehow.
So during your PhD, what what was your thesis about?
So in my PhD, I looked at, cyber infrastructure, which is basically we call big data in, I guess, corporate, or no, not corporate per se, but it's more known as, big data. So I looked at how different teams work with each other to study cyber infrastructure projects and big data. So I studied like organizational communication, interpersonal communication. So, for example, you have a degree in material science, and I have in computer science and media and com.
Yeah.
So I might talk about some jargon that you are completely unaware of, and I just assume that you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
right?
that
Because
that that
it's
happens a
very,
lot.
yeah, it's very like you hear it all the time. Like you work in Intel now, so you talk about materials and your processes and things like that. And sometimes when you're talking to them, like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, this is completely foreign language to me. And imagine us working together on like a big multi-million-dollar projects, and there are miscommunications like that, or they're not just not on the same frequency. That can cause a lot of problems, right? So I basically studied those and what are the nuances with that, what are some problems, what could be some solutions. I was looking into more like interpersonal organizational communication kind of thing, but still including some technical stuff like cyber infrastructure for that matter.
Mhm.
And my advisor also studied a lot of cyber infrastructure, which helped a lot for
Yeah.
me to get participants when I was collecting data, and just be involved in that process during my PhD. So I will be really thankful always to my advisor for providing me with those opportunities.
So over here, like you're studying communication, right? And then you move on to a role which is like the title is technical writing. So how do so I'm going to ask what is a technical writer next, but how does what you did in your PhD tie with what you're doing now?
Yeah, so let me start with the first question. I'll get into technical writing a little bit later. But yeah, basically, here, what I'm doing as a technical writer is that when developers write a code, I'm basically trying to write that in a way that would be understood by customers who have no idea about what API calls are, how to run API calls, or like what this code is going to do and what this function would pull, or things like that, which are really like technical for, and they are understood by developers because they have studied that, they are working with that, they are surrounded by jargon like that. But when you're looking at customers who are really like new to this space, and they're trying to get involved more and more, they would need more context with that. They would need to understand what this code snippet does. And that's what I do as a technical writer. I get the code from developers, and then I make sure to write it in a way that customers have context with what this code is, what it is going to do, what this function would pull, and everything like that. So it's basically just writing in a very layman terms, writing really technical data or really technical code in layman terms that could be understood by you or me as someone who doesn't understand any of the code.
Oh, that's a very nice explanation for what a technical writer does. Thank you. Um, can you sort of share a challenge or challenges which you faced while you switched your career path, right? Um, because I'm, I am guessing over here, like if I would be in like I I wouldn't know how to navigate,
Yeah.
but given like if there is no background in my family or my friends with respect to the change. So uh,
Yeah, so definitely, I think initially the challenge was to find the right field that I wanted to study, because I just went on an intuition that I wanted to study English lit. And there would have been challenges with that, because in retrospect, again, now I think I wouldn't have done very well with English lit. I think media and com is what I wanted to do, because literature would have like been a lot of summarizing and
mhm.
things like that, which again, like, I don't think I would have done good, but I don't know, I haven't tried that. So but yeah, it involved a lot of research, and like, and thankfully I did that during my third year of engineering, when you're like, you have those 2 months of vacation, you're well able to do anything you want. If I would have done that when I had come here, I don't think I would have been brave enough to do that, because I had that idea and thought in my mind that here's what would be an alternative thing to computer science. That's how I knew. So definitely involved some research. Again, I did not know anybody who had done that. Nobody in my family, no friends, nothing like that. It was just based purely on research and talking to professors and head of media and com, and things like that. But if you can find someone who could help you navigate that, that would alleviate a lot of pressure and uncertainty that you feel with switching. Because especially if you're going from a technical to non-technical background as an immigrant, there's a lot of unknowns and question marks. Me, for one, I would say, kind of brave with that step, because I was literally stepping into the unknown. And a lot of my like master's friends or acquaintances back then had also said I would have not done what you have done, because it is
Yeah,
so uncertain,
yeah,
right?
because as an immigrant, it is an unconventional career. But like if you were someone who was living in the US, I don't think of it as an unconventional career
Yeah.
path. So that's why the question, like that's why I asked, like your resources would be mainly with respect to someone who's not an immigrant.
Yes.
So how did you go about finding such people, other than the people who were available to you in your universities? Did you look out for anyone other than that, or?
No, not really. So after I like started my school, I obviously like found my the people in my masters who were, most of them were Americans, and they had background in media and communication, so mostly like bachelor's degree in psychology or media and communication. So coming from engineering, I think I was one of the very rare people who had done that. I knew a senior who also was like, he was getting his PhD when I was a master student, and he had also done his engineering, and then come here. But he had done it in another country and then moved to the US. So he was the only person I knew. And then there was another person in my masters whose background was in media and communication, but also an immigrant from India, who was studying a non-technical degree. So I talked to them, used their experiences as kind of something that helped me, find a way to make a career out of whatever field I had chosen. But I didn't have many people with similar backgrounds. So I felt at that point like I was carving a path out for myself, and it was just jahan zindagi leke jaye kind of thing. So, and I was fine with that. I think I was braver at that point than I am
so
now.
so then mentally, how did that affect you? Because you have been saying this, right? Like you didn't want to waste your parents' money. So in a way, I think of it like it was part of your motivation to go through what you were, like the change you were going through. But was there anything else other than your self drive as well? Like you had a self drive to prove people wrong. Was that what helped you get through it, or?
No, that's an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked it. So there were multiple factors. I'll touch on a couple of them. So first one was because my parents didn't take a loan initially when they first sent me. That was a big, big kind of support that I knew I didn't like, at least for whatever like amount of money they had spent on me for the first year when I didn't have like a teaching assistantship or a graduate assistantship. If I would have come here on a loan, I hardly think I would have taken the step I did. So I'm really grateful to them that they, dipped into their savings to educate me and also supported me through this crazy transition of, going from an engineering degree to a non-technical degree. So that was like a big thing that helped me take the step that I have taken. The second thing is, another one related to financial support. So I got financial aid when I went to media and communication. I didn't have any when I was getting
Like
my
a
master's in.
RATA or?
Yes, a TA,
Okay.
RA. So initially, for the first year, I worked as like in IT as a student assistant. But that didn't help me with my fee or whatever. Like we need to pay for the semester, so I had to pay the whole thing, which obviously my parents paid for me. I could only pay for the rent and all the extra cost of living and whatever. But once I started my master's in media and communication, that's when I got the TA, teaching assistantship. I used to teach public speaking back then. And that was like a whole, that's a different, like, we would need an entire episode to talk about how I managed to teach bunch of American students public speaking as an immigrant who spoke like I speak now. And that also like changed the way I think about things in the way I am. Um, but anyway, yeah, so having that financial support with TARA and getting, like my fee waived off, part of it, really helped me to keep going and also pursue my PhD because I didn't have a loan to pay off at the end of my master's. If that would have been a thing, my first thing on my mind would have been, I need to find a job. I need to find a job. Um,
So your parents paying out of pocket really empowered you to make the career change
yes.
rather than like it putting additional pressure on you to not change it, or like be pressurized into now I have to do it.
Yes, that
Yeah.
that that would be
So it
100%
it
correct.
went in the positive direction.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. And yeah, like I said, I'll be thankful to them because if they wouldn't have supported me financially, mentally, whatever went in their brain to support with technically not a great decision
Hmm.
with the switch, but they were there. They supported me through it. So that's where half of my bravery came from, I guess.
Yeah, nice. So you did your PhD, and I have like I also have a PhD, and both of us are now like in you know, we are not in academia as
Yeah.
people would think where all PhDs land. What made you choose to go to a company? Because for me, it was the writing part,
Mm.
really. And I was just, I am too lazy when it comes to writing.
Yeah.
I have huge writer's block. But for you, like you, your job is writing. So it definitely, you have a different reason. What was that like?
Yeah. I mean, I do have writer's block as well, and I did back in my PhD where I just, laid out my laptop and I could not write a single word. But yeah, obviously, that was not the reason why I switched. To be very candid, it was money and, the opportunities I would have had in academia. I'm not saying in any sense that I wouldn't have the opportunities in academia, but it definitely was a struggle. And the first 6 years, when you're not tenured, it's like completely proving yourself, which you have to do in corporate
Mhm.
anyway, all day, every day. But it was like, writing for grants and then teaching and then writing again for your own research. If you go into an R1 university, if you're in R2, then you have a little more, you're okay-ish with publishing one paper a year or something like that. So, and also I felt like, again, at that point, like my interests had changed. I feel like my interest changed a lot over time. So I did not like enjoy doing research as much, like especially as a full-time job. Yeah, obviously, like as a side thing, I may still be into it because I like learning, reading new things, researching, and things like that. But I didn't want to do that as my full-time job. And when I did an internship in my second year of PhD, I enjoyed that so much. I like the corporate 9 to 5
Mhm.
thing, which, if you ask me again now, my answer might change in a few years. But yeah, like I never had that in academia, like a structure. You could wake up anytime, decide to write, decide to go to school. Like you could define your own day, which did not work well because although I can manage time, I'm someone who procrastinates because I convince myself I work best when I have a deadline,
Yeah.
which is true. I do. But it's not the best for your mental and physical health if you keep, pushing yourself and challenging yourself over and over when you could have done it without stressing yourself out. So I really enjoyed that 9 to 5 thing where you could, balance your life and then, also manage to get a career progression or something like that. So that's what really motivated me, just liking my internship because that was my first introduction into corporate and I liked it. And then I stayed and I think I can still say I like what I do. So,
Well, that's good to hear
yeah.
that you still like what to do. Um, so if there was someone who is, what advice would you give to someone who is trying to change career paths or is like in a same predicament as you, like they have come here with like engineering in mind. Most of us come to the US with like we want to do engineering and then do a master's, and but what if there are people who are choosing, like what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So I guess my first advice would be don't be scared to do your research because I think most of it is a mental block that is in your mind. Like, I'm not cut out for this, or this is not going to work out for me. Just because nobody else has done it, or very less number of people have done it, doesn't mean you cannot do it or it's not the right path for you. So definitely don't be scared to, like look out for other avenues that you think you would excel in, because really, like, if you like something you do, then you will give your best. If you're doing something half-heartedly, you won't. And that's what happened to me in my engineering. I was just doing it for the sake of it, and I like used to dread all the exams and assignments and everything. I did make lifelong friends in my bachelor's, and my bachelor's degree really set me up for whatever, like the degrees I have had or the job I have gotten. So I'm really thankful for that bachelor's degree as well, and my parents pushing me to get that as, like, a fallback, I would say, a fallback degree. I'm really thankful, and that has shaped me into the person I am. But like I guess just thinking that that is only the path for you, and eventually you can't diverge from the main road to take, the country
Yeah.
roads. That's not a thing. You can explore. You might come back to the main road again. Like, that might just be, an off path road that you take eventually to get to where you want to go. Or you might end up in another city, and that's fine too. So yeah, I would just say, just be brave, look for what your options are, what would work out the best for you, and life will turn out great regardless.
But like taking a same analogy, right? If if you know there's a way, right, like main road, which will get you to point A to B the fastest. But if you take point B, if you take the country roads, you're not going to be on the fastest road.
Yeah.
So you're going to fall behind with respect to other people who are the same age as you, or in the same uh, like they all started doing the same thing as you. So how do you stay motivated while doing so? Like, I'm asking this, like it could be like someone's it could be the opposite way as well, right? Like someone who is coming from a commerce or arts background and then switching to engineering, and then they are like fast. I would just say that they're fast tracking their package. I won't say that they're fast tracking their careers, because that is very subjective. But let's say because right now in the US, like if we think about it, computer science, they have the best packages. So computer science folks, so when you move away from that, do you feel like you're behind in life with respect to others? And if you do, how do you stay motivated through all of that? Like, what do you tell yourself?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. So going back to the analogy, yeah, obviously, if I know it's the shortest route from A to B, and I'm on a timeline and I need to get there, any sane person would think that would be like the best way to go. But you're going to miss all the views that you would get in the country road. You would miss all the opportunities to meet new people, or, to find different things that a person just going from a highway from A to B would not be able to get. So it's
It's
basic.
not that there are no views on the highway, right?
I'm
Like,
not saying there are no views. I'm saying there are different views which you are going to miss if you don't take that road. And not everybody is motivated to take the scenic or the different road.
yeah, but because of that, you're going to be behind all of those
Mhm.
people. Like anyone going from A to B, let's put, you're going to have the same, you're going to meet the same people.
Yeah.
It's just the speed at which you meet each other or do it.
How would you meet the same people if you're taking a
No,
different
no, no.
road?
How do I say this? Your experiences would be different,
Mhm.
definitely, when you're taking different roads. But you are like, what are you saying? Like, are you saying people are experiences? Like, break down that analogy for me. What do you mean? Like, what are the scene? What are the scenic places? What do you mean? What analogy are you using for scenic places? What analogy are you using for people?
Yeah, so basically, I I don't know if I would say it in terms of analogy. I'm just saying you would reach your destination, whatever that might be, or that might not be your destination anymore. You just diverge off a path, and then you just want to take a different path and reach somewhere else. We feel like there's only one destination, A to B. And I guess that destination would be success, right? Like, everybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to succeed, everybody wants to get there. But success looks different for different people. and we always like correlate success to the amount of money you have, because that brings you happiness or encourages you to keep going, or like enables you to do all the things like go on holidays, or provide for your family, have kids, get a house, get a car, or whatever that must be. So obviously we are all, I wouldn't say chasing money, but wanting to earn as much as we can, especially as immigrants
Yeah.
here.
So then my question is that all of the things you discussed right now, for someone who is doing com science, will do it first.
Yeah.
Like they'll do it before you, and you'll be like looking at them, right?
Yeah.
Even if
I
you
will
are
still
going to,
be, yeah, I'll
even
still
if
be in my journey. I
yeah,
won't have reached the destination of per se success. Let's say $100,000 in your savings account is someone's definition of success, and let's baseline that. A ComSci person might achieve that in 5 years. For me, it's going to take me 8 to 10 years, which is kind of double. But like if I'm enjoying the journey to get there,
no. My question is like you know that today, right? Like you enjoyed the journey today,
yeah,
you know that.
yeah.
But for someone who hasn't yet made the decision, right? How are you going to tell them like it's all good?
I'm not. They will have to find out themselves, like I did for myself. So it's definitely like, I wouldn't say it's going to be a rosy road, and taking an unconventional decision or unconventional field is going to, you might end up in failure, and you would regret your decision of switching your career paths, right? I cannot say for sure that
But
you
then you're not motivating me to change my career
I'm
path, right?
not. I'm not.
So then,
I'm just saying that I felt like I needed to follow my heart, and I was miserable in the place I was. So I took a different path. And I was okay with the outcome, whatever it was. And I was okay going back to the career, going back to ComSci at one point in time if I felt like this is not working out. Obviously, I would have regretted, like wasting my parents' money for 2 years or whatever, how many years. And then per se being behind my friends or people who had started the journey at the same time that I had. But that is always going to happen. Sometimes you might like deter from the path. It doesn't mean that like A to B is supposed to happen in 5 years. Like some people, while going to be, even if you started in the same time, you might be held back by some other reasons or something like that.
yeah.
So I wouldn't say that switching careers, I cannot like tell you for sure it's going to work out for you. But I would say definitely, if like you feel in your heart somewhere that I want to explore this, definitely give yourself like a year or 2 years. For me, I gave myself a year. If I like this career, if I like this path, I'm going to stick to it. Otherwise, I would switch back, even if it makes me miserable. I would switch back to computer science because I know I would get like a good job, good money. I don't know, like whatever the definition of success, and go back to my main road from whatever different
Diversion
path
you
I
took.
took.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
definitely
basically,
think in
set
that way.
like don't just change career paths for the sake of
Yes,
changing career
yes,
paths.
because it's
Give
shiny. No, it's not.
yeah.
It's like
Give
struggle.
yourself like a set timeline.
Yeah,
Like I'm going to do this. I'm going to stick with this for X number of years, months, days, whatever it is,
yeah,
and then reevaluate
yeah,
if we want to continue doing it or not.
yes,
Because if at that point you feel that you can't continue, you are probably not going to be motivated because there would be external reasons like the ones I mentioned, um, like someone buys a car and you don't have a car,
yeah,
then it's going to be like, oh, if I was not doing this and I was doing that, then I would have had a car today and I would look
yeah,
successful. So you are also telling me that in a way, don't think about others, right? Like don't think about what others will think about you.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, definitely try not to think, because even I think what my life would have been, and obviously I would probably have more money than I have now, or reached, like, not taken this diversion of PhD. If I would have been a com sci, I know for sure I would not have gotten a PhD. I would have somehow managed to get a master's, get a job, get the heck out of there. I would have started, earning at the age of 24, 25, whatever that is. By the time I'm 30, I'm 30 now, and I have only 2 years of career per se, like outside of academia, in my bag. But if I would have been, like, just done my master's, got a comp sci degree, I would have, like, I don't know, 5 years of career and probably like a lot of savings. So yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I'm doing good for myself. I wouldn't say I'm not,
exactly.
but it's like I would not have known where the next 5 years of my life would look like when I started getting, my master's and PhD in media and communication. On the other hand, if I would have started with more conventional path and career, I would know exactly where I am in the next 5 years, or at least like percentage wise. Not everybody ends up there in 5 years. Some again, like I said, deter from their path and you start doing different things or go off different directions. But I would have had a clear, path or set way. So yeah, definitely don't do that because it's shiny and it's, like, making you look cool.
Or
It
just
did.
don't do it for the sake of being a rebel kid,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, yeah.
that's
Don't do
also
that. For me,
some.
it was like YOLO. Like, if I don't do it now, I am not gonna be able to do it later in life. So now is the time when my parents are like there to support me. Eventually, I would have to start earning my own money and be an adult and, do all the adult things. So that was my only time I could have taken the bold step. At this age, at 30, I would probably think thrice before I do anything like that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely think about your options. Know that it's not going to be very easy. It has a lot of struggles, choosing an unconventional career path. You might even not like what you take. I thought about switching again when I first started my media and com, because I was like, oh, this is too easy. I was like, I could take it on more challenge. And it came eventually once I, went to the second year of masters and then PhD and everything. But I stuck there. I liked it enough to stay there, and then I kept proving myself and kept carving a path for myself. And it was tough at times because I didn't have anybody to talk to. Nobody understood my field. Everybody was coding or, like, doing other things like chemical materials or something like that. So
So in all of this, during all of this which was happening, how did you build support? I would say, yeah, support group for yourself. Like
yeah.
like how did you end up making that?
So mostly like my masters and PhD friends who were not Desi kids, but yeah, still like
Hmm.
really cool people. I'm still friends with them. Those were my mainly support system, who understood what it meant to be a PhD student in media and communication specifically.
Hmm.
But I also had other friends, like Desi people, who were not, doing the same things as I did, but they were immigrants here. So they understood the other struggles.
Hmm.
So I found these two different groups who I could go and talk to about my struggles in my academia and PhD and,
So you got like
field.
best of both worlds for.
Yeah, I eventually found that, and it was great because, like, these set of people, the engineering people, had no idea what it was, but they could help me with all the immigrant and,
Mhm.
all those things. And the other people had no idea about, like, what it was to be an immigrant in the US. Most of them were, from here. And like, I love that distinction. I could just like take my brain off of that thing and then move to the other part and then, switch back again with the other group of friends, and it was great.
That's good to hear. Thank you for sharing your inspiring story with us. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you're considering a career change or choosing an unconventional career path as an immigrant, know that there are people like you, and it's possible and can be extremely rewarding. And if my advice in this would be, just go on LinkedIn, you will find people who are in the same field as you, or who have already been in that field for a long period of time. And LinkedIn's a very nice platform to reach out to them and just connect with them. So yeah, go for it. And thank you. And if you like this, please like, share, and subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yeah, I need to get used to this now. Yeah. Thank you, guys. See you next time.